Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's video, we're going to recap the weekend in Las Vegas, including reviewing some interesting comments made during driver media availabilities, exploring the remarks of an NBC analyst and how one rookie Cup Series driver is rumored to be intimidating others in the garage, and of course, we'll take a closer look at Sunday's race, including some heated radio from Richard Childress, how multiple playoff drivers and title contenders had rough days in Sin City, and the incredible turnaround for Joey Logano. A week ago, he was thinking he's out of the running. A week later, he's the first one to advance to the championship four. Plus, the last thing I want to take a look at is Joey Logano's teammate Ryan Blaney and some disturbing things he said over the weekend. However, before we get to those items, let's go back to Saturday when drivers met with the media. There were a couple of comments in particular that caught my attention, and we'll start with Denny Hamlin. I know there's all this talk lately about how it's 2311 Racing and Front Row against NASCAR with the charter agreement lawsuit. The team co-owner was asked about the situation and if it provides him with any extra motivation.
It's a problem I would love to have is to, lift it up that, have Steve Phelps handing me that championship trophy in Phoenix. That would just be awesome, right? And we've spoke personally about, that, and he said he'd be glad to do it. And so, certainly if I win the championship as a driver, I'm the driver of the 11, right? And I represent that team. There is another person that is the owner of the 2311 cars. And so, again, I can find a way to separate those two, but certainly I'm heavily motivated, certainly not only with all those outside factors going on, but just generally the exhale that we had after we got through the last round.
Really interesting that Denny has had a personal conversation with NASCAR President Steve Phelps about a possible trophy hoisting celebration. Will it happen this year? The other comment that I thought was intriguing this weekend came from Hamlin's former JGR teammate, Kyle Busch. The two-time champ was asked if he had any idea of what changes needed to happen for a better season in 2025.
A little bit. I mean, it's been talked about, but I'm not real sure if it's appropriate for this room. So, we continue. We talk all the time. We talk every week. It's not just me and Randall talking. It's Richard being involved. It's Keith being involved. Justin Alexander being involved. So. There's some new key players that come in here in a few weeks that hopefully will be able to, maybe January 1st, I don't know when they come in, but, that will hopefully be able to bring us some newer, fresher ideas that'll give us some opportunities to have faster race cars in 25.
He didn't want to go into the details of what his number 8 team is doing for obvious reasons. However, based on what he did say, Rowdy fans should be hopeful that there are at least some changes coming for next year, and the driver sounded encouraged by those moves. A couple of other things from Saturday that I wanted to mention, including a comment made by NBC's Brad Doherty during Saturday's practice session about Carson Hocevar. Take a listen.
There's a lot of guys, they won't tell you, but I've heard the rumors and squeaks. They're a little bit intimidated by this guy.
Yeah.
Because he drives the wheels off that race car. And there's some guys out here that don't like racing with him. And I like that. I like that for Carson because that's just someone else he can take advantage of.
It's all a matter of perspective. Those fans of the number 77 love his aggressive driving style, like Doherty. Those drivers who are on the receiving end of his aggressive moves, like Brad Keselowski and SVG at the Roval in Turn 7 last weekend, not so much. I'm really interested to see where Hocevar is in 5 seasons. The other story from practice was Ryan Blaney blowing a tire and crashing. I want to focus on the reigning champion's immediate reaction to the incident because I think it's really a developing story. Take a listen.
Recent radio from the 12.
I had no warning. My head hurts. I had no warning, man. Sorry.
Did you hear him mention my head hurts? Remember that, and we'll circle back to it in a bit. Now, moving on to Sunday, and because I don't cover F1, I didn't go to COTA. I did, however, watch it alongside with the NASCAR race. But my attention was fully focused on the Cup Series race, and once the green flag fell, Christopher Bell, who started on the pole, jumped out to the early lead and never looked back. The number 20 car led the first 36 laps before relinquishing the lead for the first green flag pit cycle. In that first stage, the early big movers in the first 10 laps were Blaney, who had started in the back and picked up 8 spots, and Chase Elliott and Chris Buescher, who had both gained 7 spots. It appeared we might have a caution-free first stage until Austin Dillon and Daniel Hemrick made contact with 18 laps to go. Unsurprisingly, Richard Childress didn't hesitate to share who he blamed for the crash on the team radio.
Fucking Hemrick just turned him.
Where are you sitting, RC? It looked to me like he just drove straight through the back of us. Is that what you thought, too?
He did.
So
Right into the back. What did he say?
he just said he was sorry. He thought we were going to go second lane and just didn't lift.
Fucking idiot.
Tyler Reddick won the first stage and was followed by Bell, Martin Truex Jr., William Byron, and Brad Keselowski. That first stage was incident-free for the playoff drivers. That all changed early in Stage 2 on the restart, when Tyler Reddick was involved in a scary incident that sent him for a quick flip onto his lid before he landed back on all fours. Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott were also involved in the crash. Turns out we were just getting started with playoff drivers and trouble. Later in the stage, Kyle Larson had an issue on pit road that required him to return and make a second stop. Here's the conversation between the driver and his crew chief, Cliff Daniels.
Hey, what happened?
Thought we had the left side changed when we went back to fix the right, but we did not change the left rear, so that's why we screwed up.
Bell won the second stage and was followed by Truex, Byron, Buescher, and Logano. During the stage break, yet another playoff driver had issues. This time it was Denny Hamlin on pit road. Take a look at this craziness and the accompanying audio.
Let's back up, all the way back, come on, all the way back. All good, we only lost a few spots anyway. Come on back, tighten this left rear up, but turn to the pace car, plenty of time. Make sure, no, forward, that's too far back, forward. All right, now let's go. Jack it up.
The third and final stage had one caution, and it was Ty Gibbs in a single-car incident going for a spin with 75 laps to go. After that, it was green flag racing and strategy. With around 40 laps to go, the pit stops began. Bell stopped with 38 to go, and when he returned to the track, everyone was focused on the battle between him and Byron. No one was talking about Daniel Suarez and Joey Logano, who had stayed out during that last round of stops. The number 99 had a 26-second lead when the number 20 returned to the track. Eventually, the conversation shifted, and it was whether or not Bell could catch Logano and Suarez. The gap between the JGR car and the two leaders dwindled with each passing lap. With 6 laps remaining, Logano passed Suarez and took his first lead of the day. Bell was just under 4 seconds behind. Everyone wondered, could he catch the Penske car? When Logano took the white flag, he had Blaney, who was a lap down, right behind him. Suarez in third, and Bell was in fourth, a second behind. In that final trip around the 1.5-mile circuit, the number 20 passed Suarez, but was unable to get to the number 12 or the number 22. In a weekend where Bell had won the pole and dominated the day, including leading a race-high 155 laps, he didn't lead the most important lap. Moments after crossing the finish line, the normally reserved driver exploded in anger.
Coming to the checkers.
You've got to be fucking kidding me!
Good job, buddy.
That sucks, buddy. That sucks real bad, but wasn't meant to be. We did all we could do.
Bell was suffering the agony of defeat, while Logano and his 22 crew were celebrating the thrill of victory. You've all heard the stats on even year Joey, but I think this little figure really highlights how unique Logano's situation is. Think about this. In 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024, Logano has won the first race in the round of 8 each year, first at Martinsville, Kansas, and the last 2 times in Las Vegas. We know how it ended a couple years ago and in 2018. Could he possibly do it again in 2024? The team unsurprisingly has its doubters after first being eliminated last week at the Charlotte Roval before unexpectedly earning a berth in the round of 8 following the disqualification of Alex Bowman. After the race, there were 2 comments of note on that situation. First, here are the remarks of Alex Bowman.
I don't have very good stats at Homestead. That's a place that I've circled to try to be better at, and didn't really get to spend time on it this week like we would have wanted to, just with all the shit show going on.
And now, listen to Logano's crew chief, Paul Wolfe, and his message to those doubters.
You know, this isn't we've been able to do some special things like this in the past, and when you continually do them, it's not luck. And this was a team effort, team win today, and I'm sure we've made a lot of people upset with this win today. Maybe weren't expecting it, and but ultimately everyone did their part. And it doesn't say who is the fastest car on the trophy. It says who won and who's going to Phoenix, and that's us. And that's all that matters at the end of the day.
An understandably confident number 22 team heads into Phoenix in 3 weeks. What 3 cars will be joining him there? We'll find out over the next 2 races, but quite honestly, based on it being an even number year, it's hard to bet against the 2-time champion hoisting the Bill France trophy for a 3rd time. And finally, I want to circle back to Logano's teammate, Ryan Blaney. That's because the reigning champ complained of not feeling well during the race after being involved in that Stage 2 crash when Tyler Reddick flipped. Here's what Racer.com's Kelly Crandall shared on X after the race. Ryan Blaney radioed he was struggling and wanted Advil or something during the race. I asked what he was feeling. Quote, "My head was killing me. When we broke the right rear toe link, flopping all around in there, me trying to get back to pit road, and you just get to freaking basketball back and forth on the headrest. I was fine until the end, and then my head started to kill me again. It helped me a little bit, but a long day." End quote. To be honest, I was concerned on Saturday when I heard Blaney immediately complain of a hurting head after his practice crash because of his history. What history, you might ask? Well, in my interview last month with NASCAR's Vice President of Safety Engineering, John Padillac, he specifically mentioned how Blaney has been involved in 2 of the biggest impacts in the Gen 7 car, both at Daytona, in last year's summer race and in the duels earlier this year. He didn't even mention the hit at Nashville in 2023. I bring up that incident because not only was it ugly, but Blaney told me and other reporters the following week in Chicago about the effects of that crash and how it made him feel.
Dr. Collins felt good about it Monday when he talked to me. He had some concerns, but he didn't feel like there was ever really a point where I was going to sit out. Or he didn't see anything too severe, at least where I didn't have to go up to Pittsburgh. But there was a couple things in my eyes that he didn't really like. You just feel kind of foggy. You just kind of feel out of it. And, the exercises he kind of gave me to do. Essentially at the end of the day, it's a muscle, and you have to work that muscle out. So the way he approaches it is pretty unique. Is go into noisy areas and light conditions and work out and put yourself in these situations with a lot of people that are going to help you out. It's not good to sit in a dark room. That's not going to get you better. So having that advice and going and doing it really sped up the process, which was obviously ideal to get me here this weekend.
Unfortunately, Blaney has a history of concussions. I can only think that after what he described yesterday, he's still feeling the effects today. As Dale Earnhardt Jr. proved, you don't mess around with concussions. I really hope Blaney doesn't here. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. I want to get your thoughts on all of it. Let's go back to Saturday and the comments of Kyle Busch. Although I know he deemed the question inappropriate for him to answer, he did talk about new personnel coming on board at RCR. For you Rowdy fans, how does that make you feel heading into 2025? Staying on Saturday, and I want to get your thoughts on Brad Daugherty's comments on Carson Hocevar. Do you agree with Daugherty and like the rookie's driving style, or do you think he's too aggressive and the reason some drivers might be intimidated? Moving on to Sunday's race, first up, what do you make of all the playoff drivers having issues? Who do you think has the biggest hole to climb out of after Sunday? And finally, I want to get you Team Penske's fans' thoughts on 1, Joey Logano winning the race, and 2, Blaney's issues. Are you concerned about the number 12's future? Thanks as always for checking out the latest video and supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.